What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mon Goals, sponsored by Roughneck Scarves. I'm Mike. With me as Kev and Josh. The Hounds scored 3 goals against the Battery, but it wasn't enough for 3 points. We're going to break it all down. Guys, it feels like it's been like a month since I've talked to you. I've listened. I feel like I've partaken in the conversation, even though it was from afar. But lots of high school soccer for me for the past few weeks, and for at least the next few weeks as well. So yeah,
I'm
but
I'm happy I'm not hosting. Let's just put it.
Yeah. We both had varying degrees of success hosting in Mike's absent.
You guys did great. I mean, short of the technical difficulties, and I tried to pop in during halftime or when the team was down 14-0, and just try to see what was going on with you guys.
Ripping on your own son's soccer team. I like it.
Listen, I'll say this. There is a clear. I'm trying to establish where the line actually is, but there is a clear line between like where teams from Westmoreland County sort of fall in, and then teams from like Allegheny County. It's not the county line, but there have been some games that they've lost 16-0. There's games that they won 12-2. So like it's all over the map. But the teams closer to the city definitely have players that you can tell probably play with the Hounds. They can play. And out here, there's basically 2 fall sports. There's football and there's soccer. So if you want to play a sport at school and it's not football, it's soccer. So the kids get out, they're energetic, but yeah, it's a good team. They enjoy being around each other socially, and we'll just sort of leave it at that. And yeah, so good. Yeah. What else is new with you guys? What's been going on the past few weeks? Josh, how's I don't know. How have things been?
How things been? Doing good. It's going to be a short week for me at work because I'm going to Asheville on Thursday. Yeah, Thursday and Friday.
You're beating me by a week. I'm going to Asheville October 19th.
Didn't sync up.
What's in Asheville? Like, I feel like there's a hot spot that I'm missing here.
I'm going for a wedding. My friend, pretty much they decided to get married in Asheville, and they were like, "Hey, we're just going to be here for 2 weeks, so come down whenever you guys can, and we'll kind of meet up, hang out." It's not really like a wedding thing. It's more like a, "Hey, we're going to be vacationing after our wedding in Asheville, so like come hang out with us." So it was an open invitation to all the friend group, and random bits of our friend group were like, "Okay, we'll go these days, or we'll go these days." So yeah, so we'll be going up there on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Nice. Kev, what are you doing in Asheville?
I mean, like we try to get there like 3 times a year. It's a
really?
Yeah, it's a great spot.
You can't come home for Christmas, but you go to Asheville 3 times a year?
It's a 2-hour drive. That's very different than a 10 or 11-hour drive. Okay, it's not 11, but 10-hour drive.
You got a Tesla. It'll drive itself. You're fine. You just go to sleep, and yeah.
Didn't they just launch their autopilot?
And it's grating me.
I was gonna say our dad was just raving. Well, not raving, but I guess he had his Tesla on autopilot down 22 coming out here this afternoon. So yeah, it's a thing.
And going back to Asheville, people who haven't gone to Asheville yet, I can highly recommend it. It's a great spot. Go check it out for sure.
Okay. Well, I guess we should talk about this game, and I will sort of lean into this a little bit. So Saturday night, my wife and I were at our 20th high school reunion, which like I had sworn, I was like, I'm never going to reunion, never doing any of this. But it just so turned out that a good friend of ours who had been living in Germany for the past 10 years just got back. She was like, I'm going to the reunion, like just come be there with me. And we actually had a really good time. But the flip side of that is at the end of the night, I got a message from Liz like, hey, we did a full 90. And I was like, oh yeah, what was the final score? So I knew the score was 3-3. And so I watched the game the following morning, and after the first 20 minutes, I was like, how the hell did the Battery get 3 goals on us? We were so dominant. I'm like, I was watching more just from pure perplexion of what the frig happened here. So, guys, what happened? Josh, what was your take from the stands? What was everybody feeling?
I mean, first off, this game started out, what was it, 6th minute? We get that goal,
Mm-hmm.
Todd Wharton, and it was like on high from there until pretty much halftime. Like even
Mm-hmm.
after we went down, we didn't go down a goal, but they got a goal back. It was still like we're sitting pretty, but it did feel like after the second goal, something kind of clicked in the Hounds where it's like, all right, we're good. It's like, no, you're not. Like, you got to keep on going. So yeah, it from the standpoint of view, it did feel like something just clicked out of that second goal, and it just they let their foot off the gas. They kind of thought like they had this, and they didn't have it.
Kev,
I
is
think
that
that was the biggest. Yeah, that point was the biggest disheartening thing, was because it like that feels really just unprofessional. It feels this is the wrong usage of the word here because it's not usually used in sports, but it feels like immature, like like mature teams, like experienced teams that have been there and done it and won it. Like this doesn't happen to, especially when you're playing so well at home, 2 goals up. So that's what was really disheartening, and more. I mean, Josh, you were the early Paul Revere call about a potential worry around defensive issues this year. And I think it's kind of coming home to roost. Although I will say, I mean, what they get their first 2 at least. Can't remember their third, but their first 2 off of set pieces. So fine. I mean, maybe that's something that we just need to work on more, and it's less about like open play, like allowing chances or whatever. But no, yeah, it was really disheartening, especially because yeah, I mean it's not like we just kept our level and then Charleston raised theirs. Like it was just like why are we taking our foot off the gas at a point in the season that's so pivotal when Miami is right on our heels and we have them coming up next, and I don't know, this has happened in the past maybe past couple seasons. It just feels like we just limp into the playoffs, and it's just guys, this is not giving me confidence going into the playoffs. But I mean, there's still time to turn it around. Yeah, I mean that comment that Mike, you just put up on the screen
so?
by JF.
JF put up on YouTube, who's watching live on YouTube. The team got tired and Bob didn't sub. My question was going to be, how much of this do you think is coaching / managerial? Because the Battery did make some changes at halftime, and how much of this is just the players clicking out?
I mean, for myself, like saying that I got tired, and so it was essentially a coaching issue. I mean, they got their first goal in the first half. That isn't a players being tired situation, because it literally is like within the first 30 minutes of the game. And if they are tired after 30 minutes, there's a bigger issue at hand here. They only made 1 sub at halftime. It wasn't like they completely reevaluated what was going on and changed out the roster. They made 1 sub, and we actually made more subs before their third goal than they did. So it's like, I don't know. I don't think the tired legs is a good excuse, especially after having a week off. It wasn't like it was a midweek, Saturday game afterwards. This was a fully rested team. No, I don't buy. I would not place this on Bob. This was the team itself, the players not keeping their head in the game after going up by 2.
What I'm torn about how to feel, because I am disheartened that the team, Josh, you're right. It seemed like they just sort of checked out, but they did battle back, and that goal that Dixon scored should be up for goal of the year. That was just incredible. Williamson with a quasi bicycle kick, and then Dixon smacks it out of the air, no bounce, top corner. It doesn't get better than that. So should we feel bad because we basically gave up 3 goals, without responding until the very end? Or do we feel good that the team, at least got a point out of it and got their head straight towards the end? Or do we feel both? Do we feel both bad and good? Cap, where do you sit on all of this? Because I was torn. I was like, I don't know what to feel.
Yeah, no, both. I mean, as a neutral, this game was amazing. You couldn't ask for anything more, and great ebbs and flows in the game. 6 goals. But I also, I going like I think I do think there is an issue physically. Josh, you said like if the players are getting tired after like 35, 40 minutes, then we have a bigger issue. I think we have a bigger issue. Like I think that's it. I all season it doesn't seem like we've been able to put in a complete performance for 90 minutes physically. And I'm okay, maybe that's really hard to ask any team to do. You're going to have times in the game where you need to sit back, but I mean, that's not really how we play. I mean, we're not really designed to set up and just absorb pressure for 10 minutes. We ask our defenders to push high. Bob always tells them to get high, and usually when they don't, it's because they need a break. So I don't know, but things kind of start to collapse. And the fact that they get 2 goals off of set pieces, I try to watch back the highlights before we start recording, and both it wasn't like okay, so the Charleston's first goal off a set piece. Fine, I'll give it to him. It was a really good header. Dover was covering him. He did a good enough job. I feel like if you give that Charleston player that chance again, 5 out of 100 times he scores. So whatever. The second one is just like people just miss headers, and then Peters or Veet just don't pick up the back post runner, and he just has a clear shot at it, and then the third one really kind of annoyed me because it was, if you look by the time the ball goes in the net, we pretty much have like 1-on-1 for every Charleston player that's in and around the box, which shouldn't happen when we're defending. We have 2 guys going out there to press the cross, and they don't stop it. Like if you have 2 guys, you have to stop that cross from coming in, especially when you have 2 guys pressuring them, and we just didn't get tight enough, and the ball comes in, and so yeah, it was sloppy defending. I don't know physical tiredness leads to mental tiredness. And I think the thing is because the most frustrating is like that we did pick it up at the end. That is because like you could have done that early. You know what I mean? Like
where
you
was
had
that
it
the
in
rest
you.
of the game? Yeah.
Yeah, you had it in you, and I think that was the frustrating part. I do think the subs made a big difference. Perez came on. I thought Perez was great. Williamson, I thought was great. Velarde, was, I think, slides in Dixon like in stoppage time, Dixon almost gets his goal for the winner. So I thought the subs did make a difference, and I mean, going back to the comment, maybe those subs could have been made a little earlier in the game. I think all of them started around 70. But yeah, just a frustrating performance because we saw moments, and it wasn't 5 minutes either. We saw large portions of the game where we just in cruise control, just knocking the ball around fine, great patterns of movement and great patterns of play.
We
And
look
I'm
like
looking at
world
this team.
beaters.
Yeah, and I'm looking at that team. Sure, bring on anyone. Bring on Tampa, bring on Miami, bring on Louisville. I don't care. And then we just have this lapse, and it just falls to pieces. And it's just, yeah, that's the extremely frustrating part for sure.
So going into it, Mike, you knew what the outcome was watching that game. Like from your point of view, where like was it after the second goal we fell apart, or was it more of a situation where it looked more even than it felt watching the game live?
No. I mean, it absolutely. Like I said, once we got the second goal, it felt, and this has happened before this season, where we get a second goal or a third goal, and you're like, that's it, it's done, like it's over, and then somehow we click off, and we let the other team back into it. And there were too many times that we were letting the battery sort of pass the ball around, having easy possession that just wasn't happening in those first 20 minutes. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much of that is game plan. Like we're going to go out and just run ourselves to death for the first 20 and then sort of sit back a little bit. But I think what's interesting is, Lily has seemed to favor this 3 at the back sort of setup. I mean, you sort of have Wharton and Dover sort of going both ways. So at times we're defending with 5, but for the most part, the 3 guys that we have at the back, they're not shut down defenders. Like they're athletic guys that can somewhat play the ball. And so it's a case of where we're starting the attack with the defense in a way that we haven't seen previously with Lily teams. And so I just don't know, is this like a trade-off where it's like we can expect 3 to 4 goals a game, but we're also going to give up 2 to 3. And that just was never the case before. It was like, if you get 1 on us, you're lucky. And we're going to maybe get 1 or 2. So it definitely looked like the team shut off, which I think is the biggest concern for me, because they can't do that within these last 5 games. We have 5 games left. That's it. And then we're heading into the playoffs. and we very well could limp into the playoffs and get a fourth spot or something like that. I do think we're a lock to get in. We're going to talk about that magic number here in a minute, but like, it's, as Bill Gordon just sort of pointed out on Facebook, that was 2 points lost, and I don't think anybody's really sort of arguing that. It wasn't great.
I mean,
So
one positive, that goal, the third goal, holy crap! That goal was
It was
amazing.
beautiful.
Seeing it live was amazing. Watching the replays, like I must have watched that replay now like 5-6 times.
Yeah.
Just the the volley from Williamson.
Yeah.
It was just so cool. I think Bleacher Report retweeted it, or like tweeted out the highlight just of that goal, and it has like almost 2,000 likes now. Like
Yeah.
it's definitely made some waves across soccer Twitter and everything like that. It was awesome.
Do we think that Williamson is back in the USL next season?
I mean, he's
Or do you
on
think
loan
he's in
right now
Moss?
from San Jose, so it's not like we don't see him again.
You don't
like
think?
on the Hounds, at least not next season. No.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, I've heaped a lot of praise on Dixon all year long. I think he's one of the more creative players that we have, maybe the most creative player that we have. But the foresight that Williamson had to not just try to rip it across the field, like it was almost like a bicycle dink. Like he knew it was coming, and it was just enough. Like it's hard enough to do a bicycle. It's even harder to drop it, within the 2 square feet that he needed to, so that Dixon could run onto it like that. Yeah, that was insane.
I want to give some praise to the first goal too. I love the first goal.
I thought all 3 goals were good. Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it ends up being a just almost a tap in for Wharton, but the build-up play was silky. I mean, and
that's why I'm watching. I'm like, how did we give up 3 in this? Like we were like sleepwalking through that. It looked so easy.
Yeah, I mean, it looked very textbooky. Like it's just okay. You move here, you create this space. This player drives here, and then Cicerone whips in a cross, back post, tap in, boom, done. I saw a comment. Someone was talking about Dover before. I do think I think I was pretty critical on Dover's first game back from injury. I in my opinion, he's getting better and better each game I see him. I thought this game he actually did pretty well. I think he kind of starts the attack for the first goal we score. I think he slides in whoever lays it off to Cicerone, I think. But he makes a pass and takes out like 2 or 3 Charleston players, and I thought his man ends up scoring the first goal off Charleston set piece, but yeah, I thought the first goal was silky as crap, and I loved it so much. But yeah, so you're right. I feel like I just kind of crapped all over the Hounds for the first 15 minutes we've been talking, but there were positives, and it was exciting, and there was still really good play, and we're still a good team. So yeah, we're good, and there were good moments, and it was fun.
Yeah, Cicerone had a great game with those 2 assists at the very beginning, so that there was a lot to be positive about this game. It's disappointing, and that's what makes it so disappointing. Is like so much positive about this game, and like this should have been like a celebration, like being like look how great our offense is, and scoring these awesome goals, and just fun to watch. It just sucks that we have to like claw back a point at the very end, and come from behind, draw. Like it's not great.
I will say the one other thing that really sort of intrigues me, and then I'm going to hit you guys with a question to sort of close out this game. The formation at times almost felt like a 3-7-0. Like we would even drop our forwards back, and the fact that we get that many people in the midfield moving and interchanging, and you would see Griffin on one side, now all of a sudden he's on the other side. Lily had talked all season about like this is a tough system and these guys need to learn it, and I don't necessarily think that this was the goal from the start, but I do think that it's exciting, and I think that there's a lot of teams that just don't know what to do when you have that many people in the midfield. you don't know how to counter it. And at any moment, you could be sending Dixon forward, or you could be sending Cicerone forward or Wharton forward, and you just don't know where it's going to come from. And so I think that's awesome. That's not something we would have seen a Lily 3 years ago. Like, it was a much more conservative way of playing. So, that is something that I've been keeping an eye on, and I'm very intrigued about, and I'm interested to see, especially how it fares against Miami, Tampa, Miami, these next 3 games, to sort of give us a sense of like, can this hold up in the playoffs? Because, the old adage of defense wins championships is an adage for a reason. And we're sacrificing defense for the sake of, some sort of creative offense. And so we'll see what happens. But guys, at the risk of sort of talking about this game all night, I was going to try to close it out here with one question. We got 5 games left in the season. We're going to talk sort of about standings here in a second, but if you could sum up how you feel about this team heading into Miami next week with one word, what would that word be?
One word.
I'm gonna let the pause hang for dramatic effect. Anybody at home, you're welcome to play this game as well, which I'm sure you probably are. So, one word.
I mean, first thing that came to my mind was dicey, but that's just because like I don't know. Like, it's just a mystery box. You know what I mean? Like, you never know what's going to come out of this team. It could be 4-0, or it could be a situation where we saw like today, or not today, but this week's game where it was, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So,
okay, dicey. Kev, what's your word?
Very similar, like unnerving. Like, I'm just, same thing. Yeah, I feel like I'm standing on sand with this team, where I just can't trust any kind of platform that it's built on. And it feels really weird to say that, because there have been times this season on this podcast where I've said I think this is probably one of the best Hounds teams I've seen. And so
I think at moments it is.
Yeah.
Like, at moments it is. It just...
And it's, I think maybe, at least for the past 2 seasons, maybe even longer, I've been trained to feel a certain way about the Hounds. And that's 1-0 wins. And that having...
ball.
And having Greenspan or Vonky Azeel be, Captain America back there, and everything's fine. And this is just not that. So like, I'm just trying to figure out my own personal relationship with this team. But yeah, unnerving. And I almost hate saying that, because I think it does this team a little bit of is injustice word? Disjustice? Injustice, that's a word, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Injustice.
No one here is going to check you grammatically, except for maybe Steve.
Injustice.
Steve might put something in chat. So yeah.
It does the team injustice, because I think they are better than how I'm describing them right now. But yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, like, this is a playoff team. There's no doubt in my mind that this is a playoff team.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like, the way we've been playing lately, that we are a top of the conference team.
Yeah.
And that sucks, because I thought we could be.
Steve's word, Steve Mattias, who was kind of filling last week after some technical difficulties, said maybe ? Which I think that's a fair word. I'm gonna say, and this only came to me after you guys sort of said yours, I'm going to say entertaining. And that's not necessarily a good thing for the team's prospects. But like, this team, Kev, like you said, could come out and win 4-0, 5-0. And they could come out and, draw games like this that are back and forth. And that typically doesn't make for, a deep run in the playoffs. But who knows? If we see the team that was there for the first 20 minutes and they show up for 80 against, somebody in the playoffs, is that enough to get the job done? And it's fun to watch? Probably, but like, just don't know. So I don't know.
It makes one-off games it just makes one-off games wild. Because
it's nerve-wracking. We're gonna be nervous as all get up, but like,
we're not going to be smack a great team we can demolish a great team and then we can lose to Loudon. Like,
One correction: I would never say that this team is a 4-0 team. I think we're a 4-2. Like, I don't know if we'll ever see the clean sheet be like the dominant part of this. Like, I don't expect a clean sheet. I do expect more goals than what we get scored against.
I think that says everything you need to know right there.
You guys might want to piggyback off of this, but I'm not really talking about this game anymore. But through the conversations we had about this game, I keep thinking how great it would, like, if you can bring one player back from last season. Like, who would it be? And in my mind, I think Von Gizio would make all the difference in this team. I think he would be huge for us because I think he's a player that would be the core center pillar of that back line. He would take leadership, and he's incredible at distributing the ball out. He's good to play on the front foot. He doesn't need to sit back and just absorb pressure. I think he's a front foot defender, and I think Von Gizio would be incredible for us.
I don't disagree. My first thought went to Ryan James, but my issue with
I love Ryan James.
My issue with Von Gizio, which I don't have an issue with him, I think he's fantastic, but I don't know if he's the anchor of a back three. And so if he's in the squad, then do you play a back three and then you lose those 7 midfielders that you have in front of you? Whereas I think, Ryan James might be able to step into that midfield and be another body. But then at this point, I don't know who he replaces. Like, the midfield's been rather consistent in terms of what they produce. So, yeah, that's true.
I was going to say, can we go two years back so I can say Greenspan? Like, that's who I think we need. We needed someone like Greenspan back.
Yeah.
But, obviously it's not last year's team.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, so that's what we think about this game. Obviously, if you guys have your sort of one word that describes how you would feel, or if there's a player that you would bring back from last season that you think would slot into the starting 11, make a difference, let us know. Hit us up on Twitter at Mon Goals or on Facebook, and we can have that conversation. We always enjoy the feedback. But guys, like I mentioned, we've got 5 games left. Only 2 of them are away, but both of them are at Miami. So we travel to Miami this weekend. Tampa's at home, at Miami, and then our last 2 games are against the Battery again and Hartford. So the team sent out some information this afternoon where they basically said that, pending some losses and some wins this weekend, the Hounds' magic number to get into the playoffs could be 2, meaning that after this weekend, it could just take 2 points for us to get in. I ran some numbers before that, and it feels like our number is a little bit higher than that. Basically, just to sort of talk the math, the Battery are currently in 5th place, so we just have to do better than them. They have 8 games left. If they win out, they're going to have 55 points. We currently have 48 points, so that just basically means that we need 8 points over the last 5 games, and we'll have 1 more than the Battery could possibly have, in which case we'd be fine. So in my mind, the magic number is closer to 8, but if we beat the Battery, then that means that, we'd only need, I think 3 to move on from there. So there's a whole swing that goes in. So for now, our magic number is 8, but it all just depends on how the Battery performs down the stretch. And we have a hand at keeping them at bay because we have 1 more game against them. Tampa. Let's talk a little bit about Tampa. I'm going to put the standings up on the screen here, and we can just talk about sort of whether or not we actually feel like we got a shot at catching Tampa. Tampa currently has 55 points, so they're 7 points ahead of us, and they have 2 games in hand. Now, we are going to play them once, so we could get 3 points from them, and that's basically a 6-point swing, because now we get 3, and we're keeping them from getting 3. The interesting thing is that Tampa is going to have back-to-back games with the Battery, and then they're going to play us after playing the Battery on a Thursday night. They come and play us on a Sunday. So we got a decent shot at taking 3 points from Tampa. But then they face Red Bulls, who are now officially eliminated from playoff contention. They'll play Miami. Then they play Loudon, who have also been officially eliminated from playoff contention. And then they play Vegas. So it feels like, short of implosion by the hands of the Battery and us, Tampa's got a pretty good strut into first place. So I kind of feel like, at this point, our battle is with Miami, and we got 2 shots at them to try to keep them where they are. How are you guys feeling about this whole playoff picture and sort of where we could potentially end up?
I mean, for myself, I feel like the fact that we play Miami twice is actually kind of nice, because that means we hold our fate, in our own hands as far as if Miami can beat us or not, as far as in the standings.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now they're only 2 points behind us, and they have 1 game in hand on us. So in that situation, 1 game against them, that's a huge swing in points.
It's a 6-point swing, yeah.
Yeah, and we play them twice, so
Yeah.
it's a situation where we have 2 bites of the apple almost to get that done.
If we win both of those games, it pretty much, I don't want to say it locks us in the second, but that's a 12-point climb that Miami has to make to try to catch up to us.
I would say it does. If we win,
I mean, it locks us.
I'd say
It locks Miami out from getting second place. That doesn't really change. I don't know. Like, I guess Charlotte's pretty far behind, so it's not. Yeah. Okay. I'll concede that. Even though Charlotte still has 2 games in hand on everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, on us. So it's, I don't know.
Charleston still has 3 games, and so does Hartford. I mean, Hartford they're sitting on 30, Charleston's sitting on 31. So they do have a hill to climb. We're 17 points ahead of the Battery, and we're 18 points against Hartford. So I don't think there's any chance of them catching us. But Kev, how are you feeling about this?
Yeah, I mean, it's in Tampa. On the screen. It said they won their last 5. I think they've won even their last 6.
Yeah.
So it's gone further back. They're in good form. The Miami game and the game against us could trip them up, but at that point, is from a standings point of view, unless they lose all 3, which is possible. I think they're in first. Yeah, I think the 2 games against Miami are the biggest games we have. I was gonna say the biggest games of the season, but it's always dependent on what part of the point you're in the season and everything. But I think it's a real 50-50 toss up between us and Miami for second. And honestly, beyond that, I don't think Charlotte or Charleston are any of our business or concern to worry about. I think they'll fight it out for 4th. I feel really confident that our basement in this scenario is 3rd. Yeah, the Miami games are going to be huge, and I'm really annoyed that both of them are away.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about the Miami game a little bit. So Miami, as we've said, is currently 3 points behind us with a game in hand. So like we said, this game's massive. We get second spot, we get home field in the playoffs, at least for the first round. That's where that's where everything is right now. In their past 5 games, Miami's only won 2. And that was against Memphis and Loudoun, who, as I just said, Loudoun's been eliminated from playoff contention. So that was kind of a gimme. They drew to Charlotte and Charleston, and then they lost to Charlotte.
The same with us, though. You said in the last 5 games they've only won 2, and in our last 5 games we've only won 2.
I'm not like down in them.
Right.
I'm just painting the picture, Kevin. So, the games where they got results, they drew to Charlotte, they drew to Charleston, and then they lost to Charlotte. So, we just talked about Charlotte and Charleston really sort of battling. Is this the case where the teams that are on the bubble are the most dangerous to play right now because they have the most to lose? Maybe, but
Charleston looked fired up against us. I mean, you could see they wanted it. When they got their 3rd goal, whoever the guy's name was, he was shushing the crowd and everything. I was like, all right, so yeah, they were up for it.
Got his yellow card for taking his shirt off.
I'm like, come on, man! You didn't even have anything written on your shirt. You just took it off to take it off.
I love it. I think that yellow card rule should be abandoned. Come on, are we trying to ban joy from the game? We should be banning joy.
How are you any less happy by not taking your shirt off than if you leave it on?
Okay, whoa. Most iconic moment in Hounds history: Miracle on the Mon. Kevin Kerr gets his goal, throws his shirt off. Does the arrow. Come on.
I just don't understand it. I have aches and pains just taking my shirt off to get a shower. Why would I be yeah, rip it off? I'm just
we're not USL players.
I know, but I'm just saying, I feel there's so many other ways that you could celebrate ripping your shirt off is not the first thing that comes to mind. So I don't know.
We're
I'd
three
probably try to
dudes who
do
probably
like
sit for like 8 hours a day.
I know.
How dare
I
you?
would
It's
probably
like
do
10 or
like a
12.
what would your okay, here we go. Here we go, real quick. What would if you scored, what would your goal celebration be in that scenario? Josh, I'm gonna start with
I'm a
you.
big knee slider.
I was
love a
gonna
knee
say I
slider.
might be a knee slider.
No, to
Yeah.
me, knee slider says you're going to get rash, like, road rash type situation on your
You're
leg.
too
Like, it's not,
Especially on
rational about
artificial
this, Josh.
turf.
yeah, exactly. On plastic field, you're not going to do that. Come on now. That's asking for trouble. And plus, all the pellets are going to be all over you from the field. Like, no. Mine's probably going to be icy hot. Like, I don't know.
I might be that guy that just like runs to the goal to grab the ball and run back to midfield. Like I don't even know if I'd celebrate. I would just be like,
That's
Get
fine.
Get
Mine's
outta
going to be the
here.
laying down, like, like the whole like laying on your back with your arms out, just like looking up at the sky. Like
Yeah.
that's mine. Lot less work.
Yeah. Here's something. I feel like we're giving the listeners a lot of homework this week. Let us know what your goal celebration would be. If you were ever in that scenario and you could score, what would you do? Yeah, pick up a ball boy. I still think that's one of the best ones.
That was a really good one. Going back to the discussion real fast with the whole, hosting a game. Keep in mind there's the second round, so whoever's in first and second place hosts the games. But then the next round isn't by points. It's by points. It's not by where you're at in the standings.
Yeah.
So what that means is even though we are, let's say we're in second place for the playoffs, even if our first place team is who we're going to play against, if they have less points than us,
we get home.
Yeah.
So it's the first round is the home field is determined by seeding based on where you end up in your division.
Yes.
After that, it's basically a scramble of whoever's left. It's ranked by points, and whoever has more points, that's who gets to host.
Yes.
So yeah. So that's a little bit. That's new, right? We didn't do that last year.
Yeah, it's new. And so in that situation, it's very possible that we could host 2 games, depending on who wins the game that gets played. Decide who they play.
Yeah. So something to keep in mind. Guys, what do you think that we'll see? I mean, we just talked about how like our words for this team, inconsistent and nerve-wracking. And what do you think is going to happen this weekend? Like, Josh, give us a score prediction for Saturday in Miami.
I mean, I guess the one thing I don't know is in the whole, planning for all this, what does a draw do for us? Is it better for us or worse for us than it is for Miami? I don't really like thinking it through. Like, it's obviously we want to win. We always want to win. That would be the best case scenario. But if we were to draw,
so if we're to draw, that puts us at 49 points. That puts Miami at 46 with still a game in hand. Which means that even if they won that game, or if they win that game in hand that they have, then we'd be tied at that point? It'd be 49-49.
The end of their season's pretty balanced too. They have, excluding the games from us, they have Loudoun, Tampa, Miami, and Charleston.
They can't play themselves. Are you looking at the right schedule?
No, Tampa. I thought we were talking about Miami.
We are talking about Miami. You said Miami's playing Miami.
Oh, sorry. I thought I didn't think I did.
They're playing themselves.
Sorry, you're right. Loudoun, Tampa, New York, and Charleston.
Ugh. Yeah, they get Loudoun and New York, who have both.
Yeah, they get 2 easies. So I feel like we have to win then. Like in that case, like it's not a situation where it's like if we, grind them down to a draw, it benefits us more than it benefits them.
Because that then implies that we have to win out, because we're hoping then for them to lose. So yeah, we just got to take the 3 points from Miami and be done with it.
It's gonna be an intense game.
So I'm gonna say final score is gonna be 3-2 Hounds, and it's gonna be a nail biter. I think we go into Miami and we ruffle some feathers. But thinking back to the games that we played against Miami previously, we dominated those games if it wasn't for a fluky turnover goal by Cheetah, or it just I feel like we know what to do against Miami, and it's going to be nerve-wracking. but I think we get the 3 points and we shut
What we
it
do
down.
against Miami is we don't let Cheetah score.
Yeah,
Which is what we suck at letting them.
don't let Cheetah score. Kev, what are you thinking? You're smirking over there. So,
oh no, I'm just kind of reacting to what you're saying. No, I mean, in Miami's last 8 home games, they have 6 wins and 2 draws.
oh, don't tell me that.
Yeah, and that could. I mean, I only looked at their last 8 home games. That could extend back even further. Takeaway point is they're pretty good at home, and yeah. So I mean, I'd be happy with a draw. I know we kind of just worked out that scenario, but I'd rather have like, all right, look, put the ball in their court, let them kind of make the mistake, because I think if we go for it too much, then we leave ourselves exposed, blah blah blah. And
but is
so,
that how you
I mean,
want? Is that how you want to get?
I was going to say, I don't think we have a brake pedal on this team. Like, I don't think that's the way for us to win. I think, we kind of have to go for it, and that's fine. But I'm just, look, Miami. I like what I've seen out of Miami this season when we've played them. I think they're a good team. They're very good at home. It's getting down to crunch time. Everything matters. So yeah, it's going to be tough. If I'm being honest with myself, yeah, I'd be happy with like a 1-1. And Mike, you were saying, is that how I want to see the team go into I want to see us go into the home playoff game. I don't care how we get there. Because honestly, if at some level, if we show this kind of switch in style, that all of a sudden we're solid. Look, I'm not necessarily advocating for either, but like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying.
Let me ask you this. Would you? I was gonna say, would you feel better if this game ended as a 0-0 draw than if we win 4-3?
No.
No.
Win's always a better answer.
I'm not disagreeing,
yeah.
but it would indicate that there's like some hope for a shutdown defense against a really good
win
team.
Would be huge. I think a win would be too huge for Miami to take anything else. So I'll take a win where they get a red card in the first 2 minutes, and we get a penalty, and we just whatever. I don't care. But I do want to see a bit more, just consistency along the back line. So
I mean, consistency would be nice, but this is a game where like a win is a win is a win. Like, we need a win, so just go out, get a win however you can. If you were to ask that same question about like the week after that game against Tampa Bay, I would say, okay, maybe I could understand the logic, and maybe it would be better if we had, a good, solid defensive game against the best team in our, division. That's a different question though. Like, against Miami, like, we need that win. I will say, out of the 2 games that we're playing against Miami, the closer we are to the end of the regular season, the more I think it is important to have a nice ramp to go, like, into the playoffs with. I don't want to see a loss on the last game, even if that does mean that we still get second place. Like, against Hartford, Charleston, like those last 3 games, it would be nice to see a nice like ramp going forward and having that positive energy. So, given the choice between this game and October 16th game against Miami, if only one was a win, I would rather the October 16th be the win, just because it's closer to the end of the season. But I want to get this out of the way. I want us to win. I want us to get a nice breathing room between us and anyone in third place. So yeah, however we can get that win.
I was gonna say 4 points against the 2 or in the 2 Miami games might be enough to do it too. So like, if
that would be a gift from heaven. I would love that so much.
I'm just saying, like, it's So we'll see.
Oh, and I think Charleston really painted my current outlook on this Miami game. I think if we won the Charleston game right now, because of the result that we just had, this is probably the first time all season where I'm not going into this Miami game like relaxed and happy and excited and like, woohoo, I'm a Hounds fan. I'm going into this game like, crap, like this could be bad. And we put so much time and effort and work into this season, and to see us kind of kind of wobble at the end would be really disheartening. And this just feels like a huge game to help define that situation.
Yeah. Well, that's what we think. Let us know what you think. Guys, a couple other things to touch on here real quick before we get out. First of all, there is a Super League. Kev, did you see this? The Super League exists. It's just that the USL decided to grab the name and create their own Super League, but it is actually the Super League for the women. So this was news to me. I must not have been paying attention enough when this was announced. Earlier this year, the USL announced the W League, which was the women's league. And I was thinking like, oh, this will be like the equivalent of the championship. No, the W League is actually the equivalent of like the men's league 2. And now the Super League is going to be the equivalent of the men's championship. It's going to be the women's league. This is launching in 2023. I think what's very interesting about all of this is the W League, I believe, kicks off next year. And they've been announcing a whole bunch of teams that are going to be a part of that. They must have enough interest from across the country to feel confident that they can also fill a Super League with women's teams just the year after that. So they haven't announced any of the teams that are actually partaking in the Super League just yet. Still holding hope that Pittsburgh gets themselves a team. We'll see what happens. But overall, really exciting stuff. I think that I know when the USL decided to sort of rebrand and have the championship and League One and League Two, there was a lot of discussion about branding and colors and all of that. But it just feels like somebody over at the USL knows what they're doing and they got their crap together, because the branding and the colors and all the names and everything have been totally on point. And they now have 3 leagues for the men. They have 2 leagues for the women. They also have the USL Academy, which feeds all of those. Just like, they're building a behemoth over there, which is awesome. Question for you guys. So the 3 tiers for the men are called the Championship, League 1, and League 2. For the women, it's Super League, then there's nothing, and then there's the W League. So if it was up to you to name that 3rd division of the women's league, what do you call it?
So wait a second. It's the Super League is essentially
The championship.
the championship.
Yep.
There's nothing for League 1.
Correct. And then the W League is League 2.
W League is what it's called. The W League
Yes.
is League 2. And then it's just like the academy after that.
Yep. Yeah. So if you were picking the equivalent of League 1 for the women's league, what do you call it? Is there some other like European failed name that we could sort of pull from and just have that be the theme? Josh is Googling
I am
furiously right now.
What's Super League? Like Super League is
Super League, that was the whole like European, like we're gonna leave the EPL with Barcelona.
Oh, that's right.
City
I'm sorry.
and,
I was thinking of something else. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't
Kev,
know.
you got any?
I have no
names?
idea either. I don't know. That's because that's hard, right? Because you can't play on like a numeric ordering because they've already established W League being League 2. So you can't be like W1 or W Prime. How about that? I don't know.
Honestly, I think it should be League 1, League 2. Like I feel like you have Super League be the top. That's like the league that gets a name. It's a Super League. And then under that, just like in USL, it's like League 1, League 2. I mean, just in the men's side as well.
I think that would work as if the overarching governing body wasn't the same. I think if it was like, the NASL, or not the NASL, the NWSL? What's the women's league? I'm totally blanking. Like the Pro League on par with MLS. Is that the NWSL?
See, and this is why we shouldn't be picking a name for this.
I know. Yeah, you're right. But I thought it would be a fun exercise. Yeah. I have no idea. I don't know what I would call it.
No, it's tough. I will say, I don't need to put my cards on the table because I think everyone knows. But I don't follow the women's league as closely as I perhaps should. Haven't read about it. I haven't stayed up on women narratives and women perspectives on women's game, both in America and globally. So I absolutely recognize my kind of shortcomings in my perspectives on this. But I will say I think that there's no real reason that I can see for like women's leagues, whether it's in the US or elsewhere, to try to kind of carbon copy what men's leagues have done in as far as naming structures, as far as like club affiliations, as far as really anything. I mean, if you have the ability, you know, like a lot of the kind of quote unquote rules that like in by momentum and inertia that the men's game follows all over the world kind of kicked off in the 1800s. I mean, like it or not, you know, there are certain structures that kind of work that way. If you got a chance to kind of, and I'm not saying women's leagues, you know, women's soccer is starting in 2021 and globally it has a rich history. But if you're trying to make a huge financial push into growing the game all over the world, and you're creating new institutions and creating new league structures, I think what worked for establishing, you know, leagues for men in, you know, the mid 1900s and earlier does not need to be the same structures that you need to consider for 2020. So kicking off on whether it's naming conventions or whatever, I think, you know, I think that'd be good to kind of explore those creative options.
I did think it was. I thought it was kind of cheeky calling it the Super League. I was just like, oh, that's good on them. That's really funny. Yeah, I don't know. Josh, any other thoughts on this?
No, it'll be interesting. I mean, there's been talks amongst the fan bases about you know, who's going to get a women's Super League team, and you know, the Hounds have been kicked around by the Steel Army, like just in the discussion, and it's intriguing. I think it would be interesting. I'm always worried about, you know, financials and all that kind of stuff. Like, if we're going to do it, I want to see us do it right.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be like, you know, kind of just a side project where they barely give it any funding or something like that. So it would definitely be hard to do it right. I feel like with our current financial situation for the Hounds, like it doesn't feel like we're, you know, really rolling in money or anything like that, which is the only thing that would make me not want to see it happen in Pittsburgh, just because I don't want to see it happen and it be just sad. Like, if we're gonna do a women's league, we should do, or be have a women's league. I want to see it done right.
Yeah, I was gonna say a follow up on that. I think it would be really interesting. I mean, it'd be great to get someone who's, you know, waist deep into their thoughts and what's being written and discussed around these conversations. Because I'm certainly not, but around that. I mean, I think it would be an interesting structure to. I think there's an assumption. Most of what I know from the women's leagues around the world is honestly based in England, because that's where a lot of my attention is for like, you know, men's soccer. And at least there, it's like, you know, the Liverpool women's team, it's the, you know, Manchester United's women's. And I think there's an interesting conversation to be had. It's like, we don't necessarily need that club affiliation. You don't need this, like, you know, at the hip attachment. And Josh, I think that's what you were kind of saying. Like, you know, if this was going to be a Super League in Pittsburgh, you know, maybe a naive, just basic assumption would be, for like, that I would have, is like, oh, okay, it would be like a women's Riverhounds team. Yeah. And that's probably not I mean, there are other ways to do it. Maybe that's not the healthiest way. I mean, you know, and sure, you get some pros because you get the immediate kind of connection from a Riverhounds fan base that's already there. They say, oh, well, we support the men's Riverhounds. Why not? Well, we should just support the women's Riverhounds. So you get that, but at the same time, you get this kind of weird just relationship then that doesn't necessarily need to exist. And so, yeah, that would be really interesting.
Yeah, and like we are seeing that in American sports as well, as far as like the in WSL, like they have that kind of same situation with pro teams. Like the Thorns are the Portland Timbers women's team, and like that kind of stuff. Like I get that that's already happening in America, but at the same time, and like there would be one benefit, other benefit for the Hounds is the fact that we have a great academy side for the women's team. Like they're our better showing up team is the women's Hound, or whatever they're in the academy, what they're called. But I still, like, if we're gonna do it, if the Hounds are gonna, you know, dip their toe in this, like I don't want to see it be done as like a side project. But this should be like full on investment in looking at it as a long haul. And they very well could draw just as much, if not more, than the Hounds. Like, if you think about how popular the women's leagues are the national team is, like and we have representation from the national team that comes to the games and that kind of stuff. So it would be nice to see us, get a women's Super League team. I just don't know, like what you're saying, if it should be the Hounds, and if it is the Hounds, I want to make sure that the money's there for it.
I guess a couple thoughts, and then we'll sort of wrap up with some Premier League talk. I think one, the timing would be fantastic. I don't know if you guys talked about it. I don't think you did, but the Hounds just had I don't know what you call it, a good milestone with the new training facility, in that they raised and installed the last beam on the indoor facility. So they still have to put the shell up around it and all of that, but they had a huge thing where Tuffy was there and other people where they signed that beam before they hoisted it up. So, that whole product, which we've been talking about for, it feels like a few years now, is nearing completion. I know it's still a few months out. But, to have that, and then to be able to say, like, okay, the next thing is like, now we're going to get this women's team and like really sort of cement it. Having more games at Highmark Stadium is hopefully going to just improve the revenue of whoever runs Highmark Stadium, which at this point it's Tuffy owns the land. So, it was just announced recently that I guess Pitt's lacrosse team is going to be using Highmark Stadium as their like home stadium. So having other teams play there, not just from a facility standpoint, but from a revenue standpoint, it makes sense. The idea is out there. It's already being implemented. So I think you would just have to figure out the technicalities of, front office and, how do you make all of that run? And I think that's a situation where, if you could potentially lean on the Riverhounds as a club that already has a lot of that infrastructure in place, and just say, okay, ticket office, in addition to selling tickets for the Hounds, you're selling tickets for this ladies team or this women's team as well. That could help get over some of that financial burden. But I agree, if you're going to do it right. But I think there is a lot of pride in the fact that the Hounds are one of the oldest teams in the USL. And to be able to have a team that's there in sort of the inaugural season for the Super League and potentially be there 10, 15, 20 years down the road to say that we were one of the inaugural teams, I think that's great. So we'll see what happens. I think everything that you guys said is fully valid. And so it makes me think that it's less likely to happen. But if it does happen, I think we're all going to be really excited and be willing to jump on the bandwagon and get behind that team. So, and I mean, to the point of, there are a lot of women's fans. There are literally people that I've met out here in Westmoreland County that probably know jack diddly about the Hounds, but they have gone to a couple of women's national teams and absolutely support them to the end of this earth. So like, that's a whole nother fan base that you would be pulling from, that you could then potentially get into being Riverhounds. Like, the two of them could totally build off each other. So yeah, who knows? But it's exciting times. So definitely worth checking out and keeping an eye on what's going on with the Super League. Guys, just to wrap things up here a little bit, Premier League full swing, lots of drama, lots of craziness going on. Kev, Liverpool is now in first place with 14 points. There are 5 teams beneath them at 13. Villa is in 8th with 10 points, so only 4 points back from the leader. How are we feeling about this season thus far?
I think it's a super exciting season. It's still super early.
Yeah, 6 games.
I mean, we'll see how it all shakes out maybe after 10. I mean, yeah, I really like Liverpool's team this year. I think for the first time in a long while, it feels, at least right now at this stage, there's well more than 2 teams that have a legitimate shot at winning the title this year, which I think makes things super exciting. I hate United, but it's really excited to have Ronaldo back in the league. That's been fun.
Aston Villa beat them 1-0 this weekend. So
I watched the game. Villa looked good. I mean, I really enjoy watching Villa. I mean, yeah, Josh Everton are looking great. So yeah, I mean, we should all be pretty happy right now.
I was going to say, Josh, how are you? Like, we're pretty happy. How are you feeling?
No, it's doing good. It's just a weird situation right now with Everton because like player acquisitions not going the greatest, and then selling our players. It's like, all of our best players, like, oh, we just sold him. Oh, we just sold him. Okay.
Yeah, the James Rodriguez thing is really weird.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's great financially for them to have him off there, and like now they have
Yeah.
more money to get a new player. But it's a situation where it's like, okay, but who's left to play until we get new players?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Mike, I'm guessing you're feeling pretty good about Villa.
I am, largely because the money that they spent on players, they haven't really even gotten. I mean, they have gotten a return on Danny Ings has scored a few goals and had some assists, but Leon Bailey came in and had a game against Everton and then tore his thigh, so now he's out until after the international break. Buendia, with the whole international thing, isn't up to speed yet, so like we haven't even seen some of the money that they've splashed yet. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine from work about the dynamics of soccer. And I think one of the things that really excites me is all of the young players. We talked about this a little bit that Aston Villa is promoting up through the system. So Jacob Ramsey, who I think is 20, Carney Chukwuemeka, who's 17, Cameron Archer, who they threw on at the end against City, I think is 19, which is exciting. That was one of the reasons why I really got into Barcelona a few years ago, was because of all of this academy product, and they're like teaching the system, and it's all coming through naturally. But the concern is that once you get to a certain level, like none of that matters. Like then if you want to stay at a level, you have to have the best players, and you can't be focusing on promoting youth. So I just saw an article today about how like City are interested in buying Jacob Ramsey. And again, I'm like, you City, like I don't like get lost, go develop your own talent instead of stealing people. And that there was Tottenham or Liverpool were interested in Ollie Watkins. And it's just like, that's the new reality that I'm sort of living in, is just like, well, you really like these guys, and then some big money comes along and bye-bye. So I don't know how Aston Villa sort of fights through that. Big game against Tottenham this weekend. We'll see what happens there. But yeah. So
I'll say too, I mean, it's less about EPL stuff, but as we're coming to the post Ronaldo, post Messi era, and we have the likely candidates of Mbappe and Haaland, I've been from afar and from highlights. I mean, Mbappe is obviously incredible. But Erling Haaland, man, my God! Since he moved to Dortmund, 47 goals in 48 games.
yeah,
that's insane.
Dude's a freak. Yeah,
it's insane, and I love watching him play. He's just, man, I would not want to go up against him. So I'm really excited about that. I think even though we're doomed, and we're doomed for a little bit of a just from probability standpoint of a little bit of a lull after like Messi and Ronaldo leave, just because they rewrote history, and Holland and Mbappe look like they're picking up the torch and carrying it pretty fast. So yeah, I'm really excited to see the players they grow into.
Do you think? I mean, I know there was a lot of talk about Holland going to, was it Chelsea, and then they got Lukaku instead.
Yeah,
I can't remember what the talk was in the offseason.
Don't care to the point where I care about. I think the financial system in Europe right now is really interesting. We talked about it before. I think there's only a handful of clubs. Things are getting splintered, more and more splintered, and unless you're backed by an oil nation state, then you can't buy the best players.
Yep.
And so it's so I think the financials of Europe are really interesting. So I think it's interesting in that sense. But yeah, for now, I just want to enjoy him at Dortmund, and I want to enjoy Mbappe at PSG.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Guys, I think that's it for this one. You guys have anything else that you want to add? Josh, you're shaking your head no. Is there a watch party for this weekend? Do you know? Too early to say? There's not.
No.
Okay. No watch party. So find a comfy spot to watch Miami from your own home, and scream at the TV as loud as you can to try to egg the guys on, and
make sure you have plenty of space to walk back and forth in front of the screen.
Yeah,
I was gonna say try not to break anything, and keep it all together, and it'll be good. It's gonna be good. Don't worry, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be entertaining. That's how we'll end this. So thank you everybody for watching and joining us. As always, make sure you have it on mongoals.com. Click on support the show to become a Patreon follower. Weekly reminder that Black Lives Matter. as always. Thanks to our sponsor, Roughneck Scarves, official scarf supplier to USL, MLS, and US Soccer. Get custom scarves for your group or team at roughneckscarves.com. Tired of the same old uniforms and cookie cutter templates from Nike and Adidas? I know I am. Looking for a unique, completely custom kit for your youth club, Sunday league squad, adult, or even pro team? Icarus FC can help you create the kit of your dreams at an affordable price. Let them help you design your new custom kits today at icarusfc.com. Looking for more great USL news? Head over to bgn.fm, where we've now got over 100 fans and players that are writing and podcasting about the beautiful game. Our buddy Hugh Roberts just released a brand new backyard footy this week that was amazing. Go check that out. Lots of great features always going up on the site every single week. Go check them out at bgn.fm. Otherwise, thanks again, everybody. I promise we will talk to you very, very soon.
Cheers.
Later.